Rayman is such a fascinating franchise to look into. There's just a lot about it, yet a lot less about it. It doesn't matter which game you're playing, but if you're playing it, it's probably one of the best platformers you're ever gonna play in a long time. I mean, besides Mario or Sonic, Rayman's probably the go-to platformer. There are countless characters that you can get interested in, along with other villains. To my surprise, there aren't that many Rayman iceberg videos with, I'd say, good quality, but no hate to the original creators since they worked hard. So, with the help of Rayman Lights, I present to you a Rayman iceberg. Yes, I know I did the exact same thing in my last iceberg video, but to be honest, none of the other icebergs I saw on Google or any other website really had what I wanted to talk about. So we decided and we went and made our own iceberg. It's pretty meaty. I'm gonna get into it.
What the hell is wrong with this non-American door?
You better not be trashing on the $500 door that I just bought like 3 days ago. It cost a lot. Also, how the hell did he even get in here?
Just slid in, you stupid cephalopod.
Anyway, so like, why are you even here?
I heard you're making a Rayman iceberg video.
Yeah, and what about it?
You can't make a Rayman video without me, the best Rayman player ever.
Well, fair enough. Let's do this. Rayman having limbs. There's concept art of the first Rayman game where Rayman actually has limbs, which is actually what he was going to look originally. But due to technical limitations not being able to give him limbs, they decided to just stick without limbs, and to be honest, that is the best redesign in the history of video games. Rayman TV show. After Rayman 2 released, there was a TV show made in Canada, or I think it was Canada, about Rayman and some new characters. There aren't that many returning characters. The only people who return are Rayman himself, obviously, and Razorbeard. And Razorbeard is way different than how he was in Rayman 2. Apparently, Rayman and some other people were basically used as slaves in a circus. They break out and a cop is on their tail. Basically, there's gonna be 26 episodes, but guess how many there are? 4! Yeah, it was a short-lived show, spanning from December 1999 to January 2000. Yeesh, Rayman 4. This is gonna be a train wreck. I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible. Rayman 4 is a planned prototype designed by Phoenix Games. There was a lot of plots going for it. One of the most popular ones being that Rayman is like partnering up with this kid who's dreaming or something. A lot of stages were leaked online, showing a lot of locations from Rayman 1, and also some costumes, showing some costume transportations. People would compare that to Rayman 3, but this looks like something that I'd compare to Rayman Legends, or Origins. Overall, Rayman 4 got scrapped, and we got Rayman Raving Rabbids. But Rayman 4 still exists. Yes, Rayman Origins is Rayman 4. Come and fight me!
Rayman and Brawlhalla. In November of 2018, Brawlhalla added Rayman along with 2 skins that are supposed to be Barbara and Glowbox. So I guess some people can shut up about Rayman not being in Smash now, I guess. I don't fucking... Lee statue. In the longest shortcut, you can find a statue of Lee the Fairy, which is a nice callback to Rayman 2.
Razoff killed Ssam. Sam the Water Snake is a character that you can find in Rayman 2 in mostly swamp levels. In Rayman 3 you can find him in Razoff's manor, listed as greatest finds, hinting at that Razoff might have killed Sam.
Holy shit, that is morbid!
You wanna know what's also morbid? The fact that after you beat El Carnivorous, he says that he's a vegan even though she's a plant. So basically she's doing cannibalism and she's a queen. So what has she been doing all this time?
Shut the hell up, you tentacle.
Sex bomb. Oh, I was excited to cover this one. Basically, people who worked on Rayman 4 needed to test some animations, so they just made this short little video. Have a look.
Tell me, baby, you satellite, in threats to see me move through the night. I'm gonna fire, shoot me right. I'm gonna like the way you fight. Sex bomb, you're a sex bomb, and you can give it to me when I need to come along. Sex bomb, you're my sex bomb, and baby you can turn me on. Baby you can turn me on.
This is real. This was made by the actual developers, and I love it. Rayman Hoodlum's Revenge. Rayman Hoodlum's Revenge was a sequel to Rayman 3, kind of making it like a Rayman 4. Some people consider it a Rayman 4. I mostly consider it something like a Rayman 3.5, but whatever. Since it follows the events, it's basically around the Knaarens that are mad that Reflux died in the last game, so they just try to bring him back. The usual. Razorbeard Last Supper. In Rayman 3 in the stage Hoodlum headquarters, there's a room where you can find all the robo-pirates, including Razorbeard posing as Leonardo da Vinci's painting The Last Supper. It's Easter eggs like these that give the games these quirks. Rayman M. Rayman M is the European release of Rayman Arena. It came on the PS2, labeled as Rayman Arena in Europe first, before 10 months later it was released in North America and other countries on the Xbox and GameCube. The PS2 version is known for being pretty bad, and, well, of course, it's recommended that you play the GameCube and Xbox version. I mostly play the GameCube version. And what does the M stand for, you might ask? Well, it stands for multiplayer. Yeah, apparently, allegedly, they changed the name so people wouldn't get confused with the M rating. Pfft, what dorks. Rayman's Wife. In the PS Vita version of Rayman Origins, you can actually see, well, the origins and backgrounds of some characters. Rayman's background includes a wife that we literally never see again, and I mean, yeah, she's the same species as him. Rayman has living hair. In the same cutscene of the Rayman backstory in the PS Vita version of Rayman Origins, it explains that all of Rayman's hair are individual fucking beings that are just wandering around. They find Rayman's head, and they jump on it, and then they just fly away. You can rub this off as non-canon, which is what I did, because it definitely contradicts a lot of parts of the games. Glowbox's Real Colors. If you watch Glowbox's Origins, you can see a story where he was just wandering around, and he also looks at he was always red. His color was always red, and then he was just eating grapes. He accidentally eats like a little bug, which he calls all his homies. They all sting Glowbox, and then he turns out blue from it. So, I guess you could say that his literal skin right now is scars. Rayman Species. Over the course of the games, Rayman has been called by many different species. Like, he's been called Ray Persons, but most recently, in the recent games, he's been called a thingamajig. I don't know, there's not a definitive way to stick to. I mostly just call them thingamajigs. I mean, there are more people that are, well, thingamajigs that are just like Rayman. And I guess that's where the whole Ray person comes from. I used to think Rayman is just his name, but I guess it's not. I don't fucking know what to call him anymore. Flips in Rayman 3. Flips is a character that first appears in the Rayman TV show, and you can find her in the Fairy Council in Rayman 3. Muse of Poets. Muse of Poets is actually a scrap character from the game Rayman 2, and is Polycus's wife, basically Bubble Dreamer. I don't know, apparently they're the same character or something. We'll get into the lore later. Apparently, after the Teensies were born, since they're sons of Polycus, she thought that they were ugly. And so she just decided to leave them and just go to the forest. What a bitch! Also, thank you, RayWiki, for this cool description of her. Wouldn't it be cool if she can redeem herself by an onion? Living Stones in Rayman 3. Living Stones are a common enemy in the Rayman series. They're like the Goombas of Rayman, but they just look a lot cooler. They've been in Rayman games from Rayman 1 to Rayman Origins and Legends, and they've also been in the GBA port of Rayman Raving Rabbids. They haven't been in Rayman 2, but they are technically in Rayman 3. When you needed to put a plum on a little stick, you'd have a little paper cut. A little poster of a living stone with a plum on its head, which is a reference to Rayman 1. That's basically the only appearance it makes. At least it has more appearances than the Hunter. Rayman 2 Bad Ending.
In the Cave of Bad Dreams, you find Jano, this lovely discount Mike Wazowski. After he chases you, you can fight him, and he'll eventually give you the choice of choosing either money or medicine that you're supposed to give to Clark. If you choose to take... If you decide to take the money, the game will then show a fat Rayman just chilling on an island, and then the game will end. Hostess of Hoodlum Headquarters. When you first enter the Hoodlum HQ, you can hear a hostess talk through some speakers, and Glowbox oddly getting turned on by her voice, even though he has a damn wife. We never actually get to see, the hostess' real appearance or anything like that, besides this supposed cutout of her. Oh yeah, and I've also made some art of her, too.
Ed's corpse. Nope. What you're seeing is real. This is not a Rayman bootleg. This was actually made by Ubisoft. Allegedly, the developers of Rayman 2 were a bit, intimidated to make a 3D platformer game, so they used Tonic Trouble to test out the engine. But that's allegedly. There's no real proof backing this up. But this isn't really about Tonic Trouble. The purple guy you see there is Ed. He's the main character. Yes, I know, he looks like Rayman. The only credit Ed ever gets is the fact that you can see his skeleton in a cutscene of Rayman Arena. So apparently the Robo Pirates killed him or some shit. I don't know. Also, how do you hold that? How do you hold his entire body? You know what? I want to see an anatomy of Rayman or Ed, because this shit's just confusing. Poor Ed. Very morbid. 1000th Lum. One of the main goals in Rayman 3 is to collect as many lums as you can. Think of it as the stars in Mario 64. Yeah, they're kind of the same thing, but you kind of... Just think of it as like that, the comparison. There are apparently 1,000 lums in total on most versions of the game, but there's a cutscene where Razorbeard actually eats a lum, and then it goes down to 999. But in Tomb of the Ancients, one of the last levels, you can actually find a room with the 1000th yellow lum. You have to find in a area that's so well hidden, it's almost cryptic. You have to bounce on a little web thing, go into like an eye of a skull, and then collect the lum. Also, F's in the chats for all the 3DS players, because they actually broke the whole web thing. So you have to, do a glitch or whatever. Just rip, okay? God damn, that sounds cryptic as hell.
Razorbeard's original name. In the early development of Rayman 2, Razorbeard was originally known as Razorface.
Desert of the Knaaren designed to induce nightmares. There is no doubt that the Desert of the Knaarens is a scary place. I mean, to be honest, this is all about just making sure you're scared shitless from this place. From the enemies, the atmosphere, the music. Very spooky. I'm scared. We're all scared. We're all scared, okay? Mama Hite. For context, this is the Daily Bubble, which is a comic that weekly came out to promote Rayman Origins back in 2011, and it features a character such as Mama Hite, who looks strangely familiar to Big Mama, which is the final boss you fight in Rayman Origins. There are theories that Mama Hite is actually Big Mama and something happened to her, but that's not canon. People who live in the Glade. For as many Rayman games there are, we actually don't know about that much about the citizens who actually live in the Glade of Dreams. We know that there are Teensies, the little monk things in Rayman Origins that look like glowboxes species, frogs. So there are just many different types of characters that you just don't know people who actually live in the Glade. Hopefully future games can explore this more. Hoodlums in Rayman 2. When you play the prototype of Rayman 2, which you can play on the PS1 version of the actual Rayman 2, you find these fine little enemies who look suspiciously, how many times have I said suspiciously, who look a lot like the Hoodlums you find in Rayman 3. Of course they're probably not the exact same things, but they look very similar, and it looks to me that they're holding the exact same gun. So maybe the Hoodlums were inspired by these enemies that were cut. Continuity. This one is talking about how the Rayman series has such loose continuity. I mean, in one game, the Glade of Dreams looks like this. And in Rayman 2, the Glade of Dreams looks like this. And in 3, the Glade of Dreams looks like this, with 2 moons. And in Rayman Origins, the Glade of Dreams look like this. And finally, in the latest console game, Rayman Legends, the Glade of Dreams looks like this. This is the only high view we actually get of it.
Reflux is the weakest Knaaren. None of the enemies in the Desert of the Knaaren can actually take damage from Rayman's punches. So you have to avoid them by sneaking around them and hitting gongs to distract them. At one point, you eventually encounter Reflux, who is supposed to be the champion of the Knaaren, and according to Goomsy, he has quote-unquote never been defeated. However, the most illogical thing to Rayman 3 has to be the fact that Reflux is the only Knaaren that can actually take damage, despite all the other Knaarens not being able to take any, and with Reflux being the quote-unquote champion of the Knaarens. Even though there isn't really any logic to this fact, it wouldn't have made sense anyway if Reflux couldn't actually take damage at all during his boss fight.
The nymphs are the reason Rayman has no limbs. In the Rayman Origins manual, we get some insight on Rayman's, origins. Let's have a read. When the creator had his very first bad dream, the nymphs gathered to invoke a being of light and capable of saving our world. A creature both agile and carefree, and tenacious as he is hilarious, destined to crack up the creator with his heroic antics to stop the nightmare. Unfortunately, although not surprisingly, our bedazzling bodacious nymphs are distracted by some zombie chickens on their way to the sacred snoring grounds of the Bubble Dreamer. They lost track of lumps chasing the crazy creatures over the cliff. Thus, they arrived late with a lot less illumination. In the end, Rayman was born with few missing limbs, which, as it turned out, made him a whole lot more limber. And finally, to cap off this iceberg, the Bubble Dreamer is God. Before I get into this, it's better if I explain who Bubble Dreamer is. The Bubble Dreamer is the person who actually created the Glade of Dreams. So you can already see some comparisons to God here. From the image you can see, he mostly creates life by just dreaming about it. That's mostly why the bad guys exist in these games, is that he just had a bad dream about them. And then he had a good dream with Rayman. And Rayman's just Rayman, okay. So yeah, he creates life, which is a comparison to God. And there's also, apparently, to the instruction booklet of Rayman Origins, his first bad dream was Jano. Remember him? And Jano went on to create bad dreams and other bad guys. So it's all loose. There's an obvious God and a Satan. So you can already see some religious comparisons. I bet this was not intentional. It's also important to mention the similarities between the Bubble Dreamer and Polycus from Rayman 2. As you can see, you can already see some comparisons between Polycus and Jano. I mean, they wear the same hat, they have overly long arms. Polycus also created the Glade by dreaming. The Glade of Dream is basically just God's dream. And don't think that Polycus and Bubble Dreamer are two separate characters, because they're pretty much the same exact person going through some chains. Which is another thing. A lot of the characters from the older games and the newer UbiArt games have changed. Like the Magician and Alice Mansay. This is supposed to be the Magician from Rayman 1, and this is Alice Mansay from Rayman Origins. And yes, it is canon that they are the same exact person. I don't know how they got this whole change. I mean, well, first off, in Rayman 1, he was a good guy, and now in Origins, he's a bad guy. That seems pretty self-explanatory. I guess something just happened to him, I guess. And it's confusing. It happened with the nymphs as well. These characters have gone through major changes, and Rayman Origins just glosses over that. If we just had another game that just focused more on story, then that would be amazing. Well, that was the Rayman iceberg. Big shoutouts to Rayman Lights, who actually helped me with this iceberg to voice it and to create some of the parts in it. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out my other videos and hit that like button, share it with some friends, and please subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Have a good day, and remember, you're fresh.